Saturday, July 13th, 2019. We're going to take a look at this so-called tropical storm. They just asked me, it's just a blob that don't look like it's going to spool up into anything. It was starting to look like that yesterday, but seems like to me, like you can see all these waves emanating out, that it's definitely being superheated right in this region right here, and it's being fed down here. This looks like a mass water vapor generation. Now you have to keep in mind, out here in the Gulf, we have all these oil rigs out here, and they can be equipped. I'm sure they are standard to be equipped with wet surface air coolers. You know, it's a heat transfer system. You know, it releases steam into the air. We know what hot air does. Hot air rises, and so on. You know. Also, there's this marine traffic out here. Any of these tankers could be equipped with the same wet surface air coolers. Now we know these ones out in the Pacific, they leave what's called ship tracks, and some of them are as big and long as the entire country. But right here, this looks like to me it's being superheated. Now we're going to take a look the past few days, and we'll see this shock wave emanate from it. As there you can see it getting fed. Now it's starting to spool up air, and then all of a sudden, boom. See them shock waves emanating from it. Now what this can do, now that it might not become a hurricane, but you know, it's gonna still rain. If you ask me, it's probably gonna come down harder than it would have. Let's look at the radar, the wind maps, and you can see this forcing every night, forcing. And then let's take a look at this one yesterday. We had this big digital ping signature, okay? What this is two device, or you got the NextRad, but then there's a nearby device transmitting at the same frequency. And when you do that, you generate a different lower frequency. For instance, like an ELF wave. And you know, if you get into China's not so shy about telling you about their geoengineering and weather modification grid, and they're using ELF waves to move storm systems. Now they got it all mapped out, and when you look at their map, and you can just imagine, you know, this same system's in place over the United States. I've got most of this mapped out. Now, I do not have all the cloud seeding generators up and down the Rockies. They are very important. I'm sure they run all the way down into Mexico. Okay, all your wind farms, all these little blue dots, they are now on a continental scale, and they also assist in this weather modification system. And we'll look down here at the Gulf, and we know like it's flooded here. But if you go up the Mississippi here, these are all loaded with, these refineries especially are loaded with wet surface air coolers and cooling towers. Here's like a mother lode down here, the Motiva refinery here. And this, where a storm blew up, was it yesterday morning or day before? But it fed into this system. And we get down in here, and what do we got? Cooling towers and a shit ton of wet surface air coolers. It looks like they're building more over here. and perhaps even right next to it. And then you go over to, I'll show you what I mean about how a storm blew up over there. Oh, come on. Yeah, right there. You can see it split right over that refinery. For some reason, my internet's being crappy. Here we'll look at the Sears band, and you can just see it cooking away. And we see these icicle patterns and the shock wave emanate out. That's why I think where it's being targeted at. And you can just see the frequencies all through it, right? Zzz. Especially up here. And look at this. Now we'll look at, oh yeah, here is a lecture from Dr. Bernard Eastlund, a geoengineer, about artificial generation of acoustic and gravitational waves in the atmosphere. And I'm not going to go through all this. I'll just scroll through it real quick. All right. They're talking about using satellite transmitters. You know, they can superheat regions to kill or intensify. Elimination of echo hook with microwave heating. I reckon they're talking about a tornado there. Key parameters of microwave heating. They tell you like how much artificial ionospheric mirrors crossed with beams, high electric fields required for breakdown of ambient atmosphere, power levels required, artificial ionospheric mirror. This has not been produced. Cosmic particle ignition of artificial ionized plasma patterns. Okay, so like, you know, people are talking about the solar minimum and all that. Well, I'm telling you that they can modify space weather too, okay? That was one of the stated purposes for HARP, or that was presented by Dennis Papadopoulos from the University of Maryland. He's the head of the physics department down there, and he's talking about protecting us from solar storms using a HARP-like device. Physics of cosmic particle ignition, ionized trails. You can go through this. I'll leave the link below. Gravity wave amplification. Now, if you ask me, I'm going to go ahead and tell you that well, like I said, we got a system in place, and the weather is pretty much all controlled. Now, what else do I got going on here? Oh, we'll take a look at the model. It's got it riding right up Louisiana there, where they missed into Mississippi, and they don't have it. They have it falling apart. Well, not really. Tail end may come up. So last year I caught it like it was Tropical Storm Gordon, but we got like 11 plus inches, maybe even a foot of rain, right? But that one came up over Panhandle of Florida this way and then rolled around this way. And I caught it like Gordon 6.0 because it wasn't the same storm, because they keep feeding it and generating it with your water vapor generation. Okay, now, like I said, steam, you gotta think steam. Oh, I got other articles here, like distinct weekly cycles of thunderstorms and a potential connection with aerosol typing, China. Okay, so they're to the point in China where their weather is scheduled. For their forecast, they actually go off the factory schedules. Now, the same thing they're talking about in the South, midweek increase in U.S. summer rain and storm heights suggest air pollution invigorates rainstorms. So, in the south here, in the U.S., when polluted clouds develop to greater heights, however, as often happens in the summertime over land, that suppressed, because at first it gets suppressed, right? The suppressed enables unprecipitated cloud droplets to reach greater heights where their freezing can release additional latent heat and further invigorate the cloud updrafts. Got that down here. Some cloud simulations support the possibility that in a moist, unstable atmosphere, such as prevails during the summer in the southeast U.S., pollution aerosols can induce clouds to develop stronger updrafts and downdrafts, grow taller, trigger secondary storm development, and produce more rain. So I'll leave some of these links so you can go through these yourself. Like, I've got the science here to back up everything that I am talking about. Persistent cloud cover over mega cities linked to surface heat release. Now they're talking about how larger cities produce their own clouds. Well, larger cities, what else are they equipped with? A lot of wet surface air coolers on, bigger buildings, skyscrapers have, they are all over the place. And that's, the only other part, that natural part left of our hydrological cycle, if you ask me. Like, I live in the mountains and I can go out and see in the mornings and see the water vapor coming off the streams and, off the mountains. To me, that's the only natural part left of our climate over the United States. The rest is pretty much controlled. You got your you got 43,000 plus flights over the continental United States every day. You got all the ships, all the oil rigs, all these power plants, all these wind farms, because I've got info on that too. Let's get into it, show you. Lightning discharges produced by wind turbines. Every 3 passes of a blade, they discharge into the atmosphere, ionizes the nanoparticulate. When farm wakes, a wake, like a boat wake, like airplanes create wakes too. They could guide. Sorry, it's early. The FAA can reroute plane traffic to create, let's use, like, you're at a pond and you throw a rock in there and then the ripples go out. Well, if you perturb it in the right way, you can kind of guide where you want that wake to go. Here's the effect of giant wind farm on precipitation in a regional climate model. Now, what they found in this is that to the southeast of the wind farms, there is an increase in precipitation. And right here, more, our pollution might actually be causing thunderstorms, genetically modified. That's wintertime, right? Using X-band radar for weather modification. Okay, now these X-band radars that they're using look like a little satellite dish. That's China. We got, let's go down here. Of course. See this? Now there's 12 of these that dispatch from England Air Force Base. These are essentially harps on boats called strawman barges. I believe that may be X-band. I'm not completely sure. I asked Mr. Billy Hayes what exactly this thing is equipped with, but Here was one spotted on the Columbia River in Washington. But yeah, anytime I have questions about a lot of this stuff, I ask Mr. Billy Hayes, because he was a military contractor who he actually built HARP and worked on many of these devices across the country. He's now retired. I guess you could consider him a whistleblower, but he's helped me understand a lot with the microwave aspect of weather modification. I mean, you can go through these here and read up on it about the generation of artificial gravity waves. I mean, there's so much to this, and this is just my beginning map. All the X's are the radars, all your circles, orange, green, black, purple. They're all power plants equipped with vapor generators. The blue dots are wind farms, like I said. And these little white dots with the black circle around it are all refineries. The red dots are geothermal plants, and they generate steam right out of the earth. So, totally manipulated storm. And what we've seen here with this yesterday is it took this here, instead of letting it get wrapped up into this system, it pushed it out into the ocean. Let's see if we got that pulled up. You'll see that from yesterday. Yeah, right. Nah, right here in the beginning. Yeah, this right here. This could have got pulled in, but they peeled it away. I mean, this is just crazy, just sitting there for days. And if you ask me, they're holding it in place right now. You can literally physically see that on this map every night, with all your random interference spikes and so on and so forth. And then, of course, don't forget about your aviation pollution. Now, I think a lot of this here is from, what do you call it? Oh, shit. When a cirrus cloud from your thunderstorm, the overshoots or whatever. A lot of this is overshoot, but I'm sure there's aviation pollution mixed in there with it. Here's your cirrus band. I like this one. You can get real good detail. But anyways, this storm is a total mess. Now, I've seen this one guy on YouTube last night talking about the brown effect or something, that when this storm gets over land, it could potentially strengthen, because the land is already so saturated and warm that it's not going to be able to tell the difference that it's over water and it's on land. Well, don't forget about all of these pumping up your water vapor. And especially if you go on up through here, these refineries are loaded with them more so than your power plants, which are these little dots. Then you have this big rocket test engine site here. There's also one, if you didn't know, up here in Alabama. One right here. So yeah, it's about my update for this tropical storm. Here's something about climate change by the BP oil spill. If you didn't know, the BP oil spill broke the Gulf current right here. You can see. I don't know if that has recovered or not. I wouldn't imagine it has. So I'll drop some of these links so you can read for yourself in the description below. Other than that, if you're in Louisiana, stay dry, stay high and dry. We will check back in at a later date.